The country is mourning the loss of baseball's most dominant slugger, Henry Aaron. Hammerin' Hank played 23 years in the major leagues, 21 of them with the Milwaukee and Atlanta Braves. The right fielder made 25 All-Star games, more than anyone else, and won the 1957 National League MVP award. He climbed baseball's highest mountain in 1974, passing Babe Ruth to become the all-time home run champion. Aaron finished his career with 755 home runs, a record that stood for 33 years. He remains baseball's all-time leader in runs batted in, extra base hits, and total bases. A native of Mobile, Alabama, Aaron received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2002. He was 86 years old. Sadly, Aaron is the 10th Baseball Hall of Famer to pass in the last 9 months. Bill Rhoden joins me now from New York City. He's a writer-at-large for the Undefeated and an award-winning former sports columnist for the New York Times. Bill, welcome. Great to have you with us. So anyone can look back at those statistics and understand his greatness. But his impact on baseball was so much bigger than just the numbers. When you think back to the life and career of Henry Aaron, what stands out to you?
You know, he was, thank you. So he was just such a decent human being, you know, beyond the numbers, beyond the stats. Hank Aaron was just one of the finest, most decent human beings you would ever have. And to me, he sort of epitomizes that generation of African Americans who went through so much, particularly those who are from the South, and who still had this sort of grace and dignity, not a lot of bitterness. And one of the most heartbreaking things to me, he told me, this was about the celebration of the 20th anniversary of his breaking the record. And he said, you know, he would never quite look at baseball the same because that year when he broke Babe Ruth's record was such a nightmare for him. He talked about how he had to sneak his kids in and out of stadiums, how he was almost treated like he was stealing something. And in a way he was stealing sort of a vision of America that still sadly is alive when we look at what happened January 6th and the people with the Confederate flags. And those are the people who resented people like Hank Aaron, you know, taking back or changing their view of America. And he just said that period of time cut out a piece of his heart. And it was just such a heartbreaking thing. But what was heartening was that he still had this great vision of the United States. And he still had not been embittered by it. So you're absolutely right. The true majesty of Hank Aaron is not anything you'll see in the numbers, but just how he remained a decent human being. And that had such an impact on me, just as an African American, whatever things my generation was dealing with, that you look at what Hank Aaron had to deal with and that generation had to deal with, and dealing with it with grace and dignity, but a unyielding persistence of perseverance and moving on.
Well, of course, you know, he's also had quite an impact on you as a sports reporter. Take us back to that April 1974 evening at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium when Aaron hit his 715th home run, a day that he spoke to you at length about in a New York Times column 30 years ago. What did it mean for this country at that moment that a black man broke Babe Ruth's record, a milestone no one ever believed could be topped? And what did it mean to Hammerin' Hank himself?
I think it was, again, one of those bittersweet moments, mostly sweet, mostly sweet in that, you know, he had broken his record. But one of the things he always said is that he'd always said, you know, there's never going to be another Babe Ruth. You know, there's never going to be another Babe Ruth. There are people who just acknowledge him as a home run king. But I just think when he started his career in the Negro Leagues, and he represented a lot of those people who would never be acknowledged. He kind of represented those people who had no voice, those people who spent all their years in obscurity. And he kind of came out of that to become the home run king. And I think that that is what gave him joy. That's what, frankly, gave me joy, you know. And that's what, you know, that's what this experience is about. So yeah, so it was great for him. It was probably even greater for me, honestly.
You know, you talked about this, you've touched on this a bit already, but of course his success on the diamond didn't prevent, sadly, racist attacks and death threats that he endured throughout his life. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Aaron had to fight against, you know, on that side of things? Here he was just trying to play ball, and he also had to contend with that.
You know, that was just so great what you just said. Yeah, he was a baseball player. That's all he was trying to do. That's all he was trying to do, was just hit home runs and just be a great baseball player. And the fact that even that touched this racist nerve, this deeply seated racist nerve in America, that people couldn't even accept that. They couldn't accept the fact that he was going to surpass Babe Ruth. For many people, they just saw that as one more piece of America, their America, being chipped away. And again, that's sort of what we saw in this resistance in the Capitol. And frankly, is what we see even in the NFL with people, you know, refusing to hire black head coaches. That's what he was up against, this sort of resistance to an inevitable progress, you know. But the death threats and what his family had to go through, what was supposed to be a great moment of pride for his kids, they had to deal with this stuff, with the you know, NIGGER will kill you if you come on the field. I mean, just the same stuff that Jackie Robinson had to deal with, the same thing that Colin Kaepernick had to deal with. So, but what I loved about Hank Aaron, who was not a guy out there, you know, banging on doors and kneeling, but what I loved about it was his quiet dignity of saying, "We shall not be moved," and that's what he was saying. He was born in Alabama, and it was that strong persistence that we shall not be moved. And he wasn't, you know, banging on stuff, but he just said, I will not be moved. But what he had to go through was unspeakable, but he went through it. He went through it, and guess what? He's still the home run king. You know, and to me, that's what I took away. You could say anything you want, but we shall persevere. I don't care what you do. You know, we will be the president of the United States. You know, we will persevere.
Those quiet leaders are often the most effective. You know, how did Aaron stay active in his later life after baseball? Because, of course, that's something that all great athletes have to contend with, the life that comes after they're done playing their sport. Did you talk to him often in those days? And what do you believe he would want his legacy to be?
Yeah, now and then. I mean, you know, Hank was just so, because he was always available. You know, he was all available. And I think this thing of him receiving the Medal of Freedom meant a lot to him, and being an ambassador to the game. That he knew that I mean, if you look at these people, loved Hank Aaron because of the class and dignity. I remember we were talking once, and this always stuck with me. We were talking for some reason about Billy Martin, and how Billy Martin would go somewhere getting fights, you know. And Hank said, I never got into a fight because of just how I carried myself. And I thought that was so profound, that Hank Aaron was the kind of guy that nobody would ever think of, because that's just not who he was. That's not how he presented himself. That's not how he carried himself. He was just such a dignified guy. And I always, even to myself, I thought about that. It's just really how you carry yourself. And that was just, man, and you know, he didn't really have to do a lot, you know, in his later life. People just loved what Hank Aaron represented, the dignity. And his life was the way that, you know, he played baseball, is that he didn't say a whole lot, you know, but whether you were Bob Gibson or Juan Marshall, do not screw with Hank Aaron, because he will take you out. You know, he literally let his bat do. You didn't hear him talking a lot of trash and all that, but if you talk to Bob Gibson and Marichal Koufax, nobody screwed with Hank Aaron. You know, you can. He didn't say a lot. He said, "Do not screw with Hank Aaron because he will take you out." You know, but everybody loved him, and it's just, you know, like you said, we lost Lou Brock and Joe Morgan and Bob Gibson. You know, it's just been a rough year, but losing the King is again, you know, I mean, that's part of life. You know, that's when you come in, you know that you're gonna go out, but it's what you do while you are on Earth. And you know, we will ever remember Hank Aaron's dignity, how he was the first one to topple Babe Ruth. And even when Barry Bonds did it, you know, there was so much controversy, but Hank was dignified and he acknowledged Barry Bonds as the home run king. You know, he was just, that's all I can say. Just the more I think about it,
Yeah.
just a great human being, really. Just wonderful,
Absolutely,
man.
and
We
one
could
who will be
all be.
sorely missed. Bill Rhoden, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your memories and impressions of the great Hank Aaron. We really appreciate it.